Recently I created this beautiful intricate Celtic knot ESA keyboard font for Hatch, Janome MBX5, and Embroidery Studio 4 users. Now I know some people boast they can create an entire alphabet in half a day. I'm assuming that means 4 hours and not 12. I can tell you that this one took an hour and a half just to test sew, and if I count half days as 12 hours, well, it's more like 2 half days to do this. Digitizing is more than just putting stitches on the screen. You need to have or create your artwork, and there needs to be test sewing. And of course, there's also other stuff if you're going to put it online. Let's zoom in a bit and see a few of these letters close up. Press B on the keyboard, and we'll zoom in. What makes them more complicated than standard letters is that they're composed of many individual pieces that appear to be woven in an over-under kind of way. Now normally sections that are under something else are digitized before the ones that are layered on top. But with these, there are a few pieces that are definitely under that aren't also over or under something else. So that's where it gets really tricky. So if we look at this A, we can see that this piece and this piece are definitely under. But some of these other ones, look, this one goes over itself and then under itself. How do we handle that? So the first step I did was to draw out all the letters. This in itself took a while. And what I wanted to know was what went under and what went over. So I'm going to zoom in again. Let's just focus on those guys. And you can see that now I know what piece goes under. That piece goes under, and it's under that piece, which is also over that piece. Some of these letters are really complex. So for this video, we're just going to work with the C. Let's zoom in on that. So I mentioned the first step I did was to draw out the font so I can see all the overlaps and underlaps. I've already inserted my artwork, which was exported from Adobe Illustrator as a PNG. And as you look at it, you can see that getting the proper layering is going to be tricky because of all the interweaving. Now why do we have to overlap and underlap pieces? Well, when we sew, there's push and pull distortions that happen because of the tensions of the thread on the fabric. And if we just butt up sections, if I just butt up this section so it just meets that one, I will probably have a gap there when it sews. So I need to have this piece under that one. Now this piece is easy to figure out, so is this piece. But this one gets complicated because it's going under itself. How do I make a section go under itself? Well, I could start there and go around. But here's the thing. When we digitize letters for a keyboard font, we let the program figure out the pathing. So it's kind of like I would digitize all these pieces and then do the branching on it. So that's exactly how fonts work, so that if I want to make this closest point, I know that, for example, on this letter, if it's coming after the B, the closest start point is going to be there. And for the exit point over here, it could be there or it could be here. On a different letter, it might be coming in up here. So we have to make plans for that. The other option is that we can just digitize this as a frozen element and just say, no, you can't do any closest point with it. In that case, I would do what I call old school digitizing. And that requires me to digitize in all my travel runs. For example, if I'm coming out of this letter, I would do a travel run all the way up to this piece and probably do that piece. Then I'd come over here and I'd start working on this area. Then I would just plan to come out down here. Okay, enough babbling already. And normally I like to digitize with the grid on so I can gauge my stitch lengths. And I'm not a stickler for working with specific zoom levels. I don't say, oh, you got to work at 300% or 600% or whatever percent. I work at whatever's comfortable for me, and I use the grid, which I can set at 1 millimeter, to make sure that I don't have any stitches that are too short. Now these letters are 50 millimeters tall, which is about 2 inches. So I'm not particularly concerned that I'm going to end up with really short stitches because I don't have any tiny details. So as long as I don't get too short on my tapers, like in that area, I should be fine. And the grid can just kind of clutter up the screen. As with any design you're going to digitize, I need to think about where I want to start the object and where I want to exit, bearing in mind that if I do branching, all my objects could get rearranged and sewn in a different order to handle for the closest point joins. I'll be using the block tool to digitize. So we'll go to the Digitize toolbox, and I'll click on Digitize Blocks. I'm going to make sure that I have a fill. I'm going to make sure it's satin. I'm going to check my stitching, and I want to make sure that underlay is turned off. Why am I turning off the underlay? It makes it easier for me to see what's going on. I can always apply underlay later. Also, I want to be out of true view. I just find it easier to digitize with true view off where I can actually see my stitches. I'll toggle on true view every now and then to see if I have my layering right. Now, why use the block tool and not the satin line tool? So a lot of people like to use the Digitize open shape and then use the satin line. Here's the thing with the satin line. It makes beautiful even satin lines. So this would be so easy to do as a satin line. The problem is the ends. Now this end would work fine because it's straight across. This end is tapered a bit. When you have tapered ends or rounded ends or shaped ends like there, we can't do that as one object with a satin line because we can't change the ends of the shape. Okay, so I've looked at my design and I've decided that this is going to be my start point. Then I'll come over here, do these, come back, and then I'll start working here. I usually decide where I want to start and where I want to end, and then I kind of work out the next few steps. It's kind of like driving from New York to LA. You have a general idea and you have a map of where you want to go, but you don't really know how you're going to get around the cities until you get to a city. And then you work out how to get around the cities that are in between New York and LA. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm also going to work with red because I just happen to like to work with red. It's easy to see. I'm going to press B on the keyboard and zoom in. And I'll go back and select Digitize Blocks. And I'm just going to start here. So Digitize Blocks works with right and left clicks to define the shape, and you're going to place them on either side. So I'll just start with left clicks. I'll do a right click and then a left click, right, right, left, right, 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 left, left, and press enter. There's my first shape. Now if I'm going to use the branching tool to handle all my pathing, I'll just move to my next object and not worry about how to get there. Now here's the thing about these under-over things. Since I don't know how Hatch is going to rearrange my objects, I'm going to make sure that I have a section underneath there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little shape with the block tool that just covers where that overlap would be. We'll do another one here. And the idea is that because these are separate shapes from the other ones, they will get sewn underneath. Not always, but often they do. And then I don't have to worry about any gaps here. So now it's just a matter of right and left clicking my way around this design. Now I'll start here and I'll work over here. Now the rest of the design is pretty much this way. I'll be making these little shapes. I'll be using the block tool to work around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking, and I'll probably speed up the video at this point because you don't need to see me place every single little piece. You need to see the order. And it's boring to watch somebody digitize when they're just doing the same thing over and over again. So let's go. Okay, there's our first letter. Now I might want to do a little bit of tweaking to smooth up some of these places, but for this video we'll just leave it the way it is. Now what I need to do is to select these objects, and I'll do branching. And we need to watch and make sure that our overlaps and underlaps stay the same. When we do branching, we need to tell it an in and out point, and it looks pretty good. Now, I can tell you that I would smooth out some of these places where I see it's kind of jerky. I just don't want to spend that time in the video. This is how you would do this kind of letter. 1 down and 25 to go. Now some other tips about the block tool. I'll turn True View off. I'll press H, and you can see where I've placed all my nodes and my angle lines. You want to place the fewest number of nodes that you can get by with. And in general, you want the angles to be perpendicular to the stroke. Now, we get some tight turns in here, so we kind of have to advance our angles up through there so that we don't have spaciness going on here. Now let's go back and look at the original. I'll zoom back out, 0 on the keyboard, and there's the entire font. So all these letters have already been digitized, they've already been tested, and they are a keyboard font for ESA users. So you can download this, install it in your system, and you can use these already made and not have to go through all the pain of digitizing all those letters. If you've watched this video to this point and want to get the font, I'm going to reward you with a coupon code to get it at a discount. The link to the font is in the description down below. The coupon will work if the font is not already on sale. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and please comment.